So we are going to take a look at our Bill of Rights. Alrighty. So we're going to take a look at the Bill of Rights, which is part of our country's constitution, or the document that has set up the rules for our country. So together we're going to take a look at some of these, and then you are going to read parts of a text about these documents that are going to teach you what your rights are. And we know that rights are opportunities that are afforded to everyone, okay? So we're going to take a look at those together today. So what is the Constitution? That's what we're going to take a look at today. You can kind of think of rules of a board game, and that's what Carrie Sotner says. She's a Constitution expert. Rules can tell you how a game works, she says. The Constitution tells us how the American government works. It tells us who the players are, what their jobs are, and how they have to work together. It also lists the rights of people. Ms. Sharp is going to give us a brief video about the Constitution introduction, and then we will take a look at some scholastic and vocabulary to give us some more background knowledge on what the Constitution is. So here we are.
We have been talking about the rights and responsibilities and equality of America.
Oops, sorry, it's supposed to be down there.
We've been talking about the rights and responsibilities.
Okay, sorry guys, it's not letting me click on two things at once. Let me get something done really quick. All right, here we go.
And equality of Americans and people. Today we're going to learn about a document that was created back in 1787 to help guide our country with those principles and equality. And it's called the Constitution. What is the Constitution? Think of the rules of a board game. That's what Carrie Sotner says. She's a Constitution expert. Rules can tell you how a game works, she says. The Constitution tells us how the American government works. It tells us who the players are, what their jobs are, and how they have to work together. It also lists the rights of the people. This is a picture of the Constitution written back in 1787. We're going to watch a video that goes over the creating of making America's rules.
The rules of our land. Long ago, our country was ruled by England. A king and other people in England were in charge. They made the laws for us, even though they were very far away. Many people in our country thought these laws were unfair, so they fought a war to be free. This war was called the American Revolution. They won the war. They formed a new country. It was named the United States of America. People were excited about the new country, but no one could agree on how to run it. People from different states wanted different things. They argued all the time. The new country needed rules, so our leaders wrote the Constitution. They signed it on September 17th, 1787. The Constitution is a document or important piece of writing. It explained how the new country would be run. It set up our government. A government is made up of the people in charge of a country. The Constitution said there would be no king. People would vote for a president and other leaders. George Washington became our country's first president. The Constitution said that all the states were part of one big country. The states would work together. The Constitution is very old, but we still use it today. We vote for a president every 4 years. And in September, we have a holiday that's just for the Constitution. Happy Constitution Day.
All right. So as you just heard, we have used, let me pause that. We have used the Constitution for almost 250 years. Okay, it's been a very long time that we've been using this document. What has happened is we have changed the way that we've read the document, and we have changed who we feel the document is for. We're going to investigate some of those changes and how they have affected us.
In-depth look at some of the different parts of the Constitution and some of the rights that it gives us, the people.
All righty. So let me turn this off. Here we go. So that's taking a look at exactly what the Constitution is. Today, you're going to be finding the main idea of different parts of the Constitution. So what does the Constitution say, and how do you know? Okay, so with main idea and details, it's been a minute since we've reviewed this, so I'm going to go ahead and play another video that's going to review quickly how to find main idea and details. Okay, this is very quick. It's 2 minutes long, just a quick review, because then we are going to start finding the main idea and details of different parts of the Constitution.
Main idea and key details. Reading Learning Target 3.RN.2.2. To be successful with this, you need to be able to determine the main idea of a text, recount the key details, and explain how they support the main idea. Today, we're going to be doing all three: determining the main idea of a text, recounting key details, and explaining how the details support the main idea. The main idea is the most important idea in a section of text. It is supported by textual details. Think of the main idea as the top of a table, the most important idea about the text. The reason why you have a table is to have a surface up high to work on or use. Then you have the legs of the table. Those are the supporting details. They're facts and examples that support the main idea. They raise it up so that you are able to use the top of the table or use the main idea and understand it. How do I find the main idea of a text? There are several different ways. You can ask yourself, what is this mostly about? Look at the title of the text. Look at the pictures. Look for words repeated over and over. Sometimes the main idea is either the first or last sentence in the text. And don't get distracted by interesting information that doesn't support the main idea. How do I find the supporting key details in a text? Remember, those are those sentences that tell more about, describe, or explain the main idea. If they have nothing to do with the main idea, they're not supporting key details.
Okay, so that graphic of that table is going to be really important to us.
So
there we go. To remember that the main idea is like the surface of the table. That's how you know what you're doing, right? When you sit at the table, I know I'm getting ready to eat, or I'm getting ready to do my schoolwork. So it tells you what's going on. The legs of the table are like the details that let you sit there and have that knowledge. Okay, so they're the reason that you can understand what's going on. Are there questions about main idea or detail right now before we start finding the main idea and details of the Constitution? Any questions on how to do that? We've reviewed this skill before. We're coming back to it again to continue our practice. All right, let's continue on then. So before you find the main idea and details of the Constitution, you might want to know exactly what the Constitution is. We've learned about where it came from. We've learned about why we had to have it so that we would stop fighting. But now we're going to see exactly what it says, okay? So here is what the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the parts that we're going to focus on, has to say.
Number one, freedom of religion, speech, and press. Plus, you can assemble in crowds and protest. Number two, right to bear arms and cannons. I bet the Minutemen didn't know about handguns. Number three, when soldiers get sleepy, you don't have to let them sleep up on your couch. Number four, no one can search and seize. It protects me unless people have a warrant to arrest me. Number five, if you arrest me, respect me. Sorry, Alec, there's no double jeopardy. What'd you do after school? I plead the fifth. What'd you do after that, dude? I plead the fifth. I don't have to incriminate myself or risk my health. Whenever I'm in trouble, I just plead the fifth. Number six, you must process me speedily. 7 in front of my peers on the jury. Number 8, you can use cruel or unusual punishment. You can make me drink, chopping time for the fun of it. 9, the people get more than these rights. 10 states can make other laws and they just might. This is the Bill of Rights. 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 This is the 10 Amendments, the first 10 of the Constitution, baby.
Break these down. That was pretty fast. Let me pause. There we go. So we can see the first right, or the first rule that is afforded to you by our country, is that you have the freedom of religion, speech, and press. That means the country is not allowed to create laws or rules that say you're not allowed to believe in this, or you can't say that, or you're not allowed to type that as a story. So you have these freedoms given to you, and that's an actual rule in our country. Another rule of our country, and this one might sound kind of funny, or the third one might, the right to bear arms and cannons. This means that you have the right to own weapons to protect yourself. Now, our country does have rules that says you have to be a certain age before you can have those weapons. But if you have adults of a certain age, they are allowed to own weapons in order to protect themselves. This third one might sound kind of funny, but this was actually happening before the Bill of Rights was made. If there was a war happening in your country and the soldiers got sleepy, they were allowed to say, I'm going to take a nap on your couch. And you couldn't tell them no. So you could have a stranger from another country come in and say, I'm going to sleep here, and you had to let them. So our country said, that's crazy. That should not be allowed. So we're not going to let soldiers do that anymore. So they cannot come into your home and say, you have to let me stay here anymore. Sorry, my screen's glitching. There we go. Then we get into our fourth rule. Our fourth, I skipped too far. Fourth one is that you have the right to not be searched and seized. So that means no one can just walk in and say, show me everything that you have right now. They have to have a piece of paper from a court that allows them to do that. Before, if a soldier wanted to see everything you had, they were allowed to. And our country said, no, we need some privacy. Okay. 5 talks about when you are arrested. This is what we talk about a lot of times, innocent until proven guilty. Just because someone thinks you have done something does not mean that it's true. So there is respect that is given to people who are arrested according to our country's laws. 6 means you must process me speedily. That means if someone is in trouble, they can't just stay in jail for 15 years until they decide to give them a court case, right? We've got to show people respect to their life, to the time they have on this earth. So we make sure that they get a trial quickly, okay? Also, they cannot be punished unnecessarily. There are laws against this in our country. That means if someone is found guilty, there are certain punishments that are allowed and certain punishments which are not allowed. 9 is right here. 1 second. There we go. People get more rights than just those. So the Bill of Rights is 9 of them. And it says that people should have the opportunity to have all of these things afforded to them, and that states can make other laws, but they have to follow the country's laws. So they can have different laws inside of different states. They can't go back against these Bill of Rights. These have to be followed, okay? That's a lot, and it does feel like a lot because we're going to take several days to go over this, okay? Today, we're only going to go over 3 of these amendments. So we're going to take a look at 3 of them, and then one of them together, and then you're going to practice 2 of them, finding the key details of that amendment inside of a breakout room and independently, okay? Here's one that is going to be done right now as an example so that you understand what you're going to do. And this is about our First Amendment right, the freedom of speech, okay? Freedom of speech. This says that we are allowed to say what we feel, and the country cannot say, shh, you're not allowed to say that, okay? So let me play this, and this is exactly what you are going to do today. You're going to read a text. The main idea is going to be given to you, and you're going to be finding the key details.
This passage talks about the First Amendment, which is freedom of speech. In the late 1960s, during the darkest days of the Vietnam War, 3 students in Des Moines, Iowa, wore black armbands bearing peace symbols to school. The black symbolized all those who had died during the war, and the peace symbol represented hope that the war would soon be over. The 3 students were very young. John Tinker was just 15. His friend Christopher Eckhart was 16, and John's sister Mary Beth was only 13. They were suspended from school for making such a bold statement against the war, but many felt that they had every right to wear the armbands. Their case was called Tinker versus Des Moines Independent Community School District, and it went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. In 1969, the court decided that the students' First Amendment right to freedom of speech had indeed been violated. Over here is a picture. It says here, people protested against President Richard Nixon in the early 1970s. This person has a sign that says, "Impeach Nixon." And so for this, we're going to decide what is the main idea. Remember, the main idea can be found in the very beginning or the end. Here, the main idea is at the end. The First Amendment's right to freedom of speech. That's the main idea right here. So I'm going to type in here, main idea. Then we are going to find some key details to support the main idea that people have the right to the freedom of speech. One freedom of speech idea was that people wore black armbands. People wore black armbands bearing peace symbols to school. Another idea is that here people are protesting against President Richard Nixon. These are ways that students are able and people are able to express themselves and what they feel. Also, it talks about how they make such a bold statement against the war. These right here, wearing black armbands, making bold statements against things, and protesting against people are ways that people can show their First Amendment right to freedom of speech. So now I'm going to type this up. The main idea I'm going to put into a complete sentence in my own words. The First Amendment, let's see if those are capitalized. The First Amendment gives people the right to freedom of speech. And so that summarizes in my own words what that First Amendment is. That's the main idea of this text. Then my key details are going to be ways that people can show and use their First Amendment and why ways that they show their right to freedom of speech. So I'm going to put that people can protest, wear armbands, and make bold statements or things that they believe. Bold statements for things they believe. And here it tells us in this text, it tells us that the court decided that their students' First Amendment rights had been violated. And that means that the students should not have been suspended and that it was okay for them to wear those symbols to school.
Okay, so again, we're going to look at the main idea that's been given to us, and that's going to be the right or the name of the right that we are working with or reading about. And then you're going to find details that prove that that is true. What questions are there about main idea or details in regards to the Bill of Rights? Okay, awesome. So you today are getting ready to go into a breakout room and you're going to work on identifying the main idea of one of the parts of the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. So go ahead, if you would, right now and go to your activities in Seesaw, and you're going to see an activity pop up that says Making America's Rules, Main Idea and Key Details. We've done the together portion already. You're getting ready to work on part of the independent portion together with the breakout room. And it says, if you missed the live lesson, which you didn't, watch the recording. You don't have to do that because you're here. Then it says complete slides 6 through 8. Make sure that you are watching the instructional videos on each slide. The main idea has been given. You are finding key details about each amendment in the text, okay? So go ahead and click on that Add Response button. When you open up your assignment, you'll see a slide that says With the Teacher. And the second picture shows you the book that we got these texts from. You'll be able to read this soon. And we have it right here. Okay. So it says with your teacher. So we're going to work on this part together. And then as I shared, you're going to go into a breakout room to complete a section with your breakout room. So also in the First Amendment is the freedom of religion. Okay. So not only do we have the freedom of speech, but we have the freedom of religion as well, which means we can believe in what we want to or what we feel is correct. It says the First Amendment says that people have the freedom to, and we just said that, freedom of religion. It's right here. So if you would, please grab your highlighter and highlight freedom of religion. And then we're going to type that in. The First Amendment says people have the freedom to believe in any religion they choose. And we're going to add that into that main idea sentence. So the First Amendment says people have the freedom to believe in any religion that they choose. Go ahead and fill that in. Okay. As we read, we are going to find a few key details that prove people in America have been given freedom of religion, meaning they have been allowed to believe in whatever they like. I'm going to keep my highlighter tool ready so that I can highlight them as I read. I'd invite you to do the same. Amish people have always believed that their religion permits them to live apart from the influence of the rest of society. For example, they believe education should end after 8th grade. However, many state laws say children must go to school until they are 16, regardless of religion. In a 1972 case called Wisconsin v. Yoder, the Supreme Court decided that the First Amendment right to freedom of religion had more power than Wisconsin's law regarding school age. In this way, the Constitution was upheld at the federal level and the state rule had less power. So that's talking about that 10th Amendment right that that states can have their own rules, but the countries are stronger. So let's go back through and highlight some proof here. Amish people have always believed that their religion permits them to live apart from the influence of the rest of society. For example, they believe education should end after 8th grade. So in their religion, you know everything that you need to know academically after 8th grade. That is different from the way that people who are not Amish live, okay? So people who are not Amish and live in America tend to believe that you should go to school until you graduate, which is 12th grade, so that's 4 more years. But people who are Amish have the freedom of religion to stop their school after 8th grade. We're going to find some more details. Many state laws say children must go to school until they're 16, regardless of religion. In a 1972 case called Wisconsin v. Yoder, the Supreme Court decided that, this sounds important, the First Amendment right to freedom of religion had more power than Wisconsin's law regarding school age. So their rights were protected. Even though the state tried to make a law that changed those rights, the country's court system, the Supreme Court, for all of America said, no, they get to have this freedom. It says in this way, the Constitution was upheld at the federal level and the state rule had less power. So Wisconsin was not allowed to tell the Amish, actually, you have to go to school, because the Supreme Court said, nope, they're allowed to be free to believe in that if they want to. Okay. So we're going to write this down in key details. So we highlight 2 details, and in my brain, I like to think in terms of lists. So I'm going to make these into a list. My first detail and my second detail. Okay. The first detail that I highlighted was they believe education should end after 8th grade. I don't want to be a copier, so I'm going to change this into my own words. Okay, I'm going to put this into a sentence that makes sense to me. So Amish people think they should not have to go to school after 8th grade. Okay, so I'm talking about the religion, which is the Amish religion. I'm talking about their belief and their freedom to practice that belief and not going to school after 8th grade. Go ahead and type that on your screen as well too, please. Amish people think they should not have to go to school after 8th grade. So again, I took what was in the text. I didn't copy it. I didn't type exactly what it said. Okay, I showed what it was that I understood from the text. And I understood that they don't have to go to school until after 8th grade. So I said the same thing that the text said, but I put it in my own words so that it would make sense to me. Give you a few seconds more to finish typing that. Okay, our second detail that we highlighted, I'm going to read it again because it's been a minute since I've seen it. It says the Supreme Court decided that the First Amendment right to freedom of religion had more power than Wisconsin's law regarding school age. So I know that Wisconsin is a state. So I know that the state was not allowed to change the rights of the Amish. Okay, so the country, America, in its governing document said everybody is allowed to have this freedom. Wisconsin tried to say, no, they shouldn't have this freedom. They should have to go to school. And the Constitution, according to the Supreme Court, says you're not allowed to do that, Wisconsin. You can't change people's rights. You can't change their freedoms. Okay, so they weren't allowed to be more strict. So again, I took what I highlighted about how they had freedom of religion and I changed it so that it was in my own words, but still said the same message. Okay, we're not going to copy the text. We're not just going to type exactly what the text says. We need to start putting things into our own words to prove that they make sense to us. Okay, as you're finishing typing that, I want you to listen to what's getting ready to happen. You are getting ready to go into a breakout room. In this breakout room, you are going to be reading another Bill of Rights, one of the other items that are protected to you as a citizen of America. Inside of this, you are going to determine what the key details are. The main idea is going to be given to you. You are going to figure out the key details that prove that is what this text is saying. That is what this text is about, okay? So I'm going to get our breakout room set up, and as you finish typing, and then I will send us all together. Okay, welcome back with your group. Hopefully you had time to finish that slide. It should have said something like this. Police do not have the right to come randomly search and take your stuff, okay? That is the main idea of the Fourth Amendment. My key details were that the police went into Dolly Mapp's house without a search warrant. It said here that they went to her house without finding a search warrant from a judge, and that they found illegal things, but she did not get in trouble for it. It says that the Supreme Court overturned this conviction, meaning the state of Ohio said you're in trouble, But the Supreme Court of our country said, no, she is not, because you didn't have permission to look for those things. So she did not get in trouble because the police didn't have a search warrant to look for those items, okay? So your key details did not have to be exactly the same as mine, but they should be along the same lines. They should involve the story from the text, okay? I will post this as a sample student response. So if you did not get this part done, you'll be able to see mine during independent work time. For your independent work time today, it is your last 2 slides. Independently, you are going to find the key details of the 6th Amendment and the 10th Amendment, okay? So you will notice the main idea has been given to you. It is finished. The 6th Amendment says people have the right to a lawyer. You are going to go find proof that they are allowed to have a lawyer. The 10th Amendment says that states and people have the right to control power not given by the Constitution. So if there's something that is not said in the Constitution, states get to be in control. You're going to find key details that prove that. I would strongly recommend that you watch the video from Ms. Sharp, as it will contain a hint, and that you listen to her reading parts of the text that may be difficult to see. All right, so this is what you are going to complete during your independent work time today. Slides 7 and 8, which are the 6th and 10th amendments. Okay. Come back here.